So in terms of regards to Dragon Ball Super anime and possibly manga returning, right? Now, obviously the manga and anime, they are a bit in... Well, they're both on hiatus at the moment. Obviously, we had recently, in terms of anime-wise, we did have Dragon Ball Daima, obviously, which, a lot of people did enjoy, really like, stuff like that as well. But a lot of people asking, where's Dragon Ball Super, right? So, obviously, when we look at the manga side, the manga's starting to sort of pick up again a little bit. Like, we've got this teaser here that I got on the screen here showing the new volume, sort of thing. But in terms of actual manga, there's nothing else ever announced yet, which is a bit weird, you think? Because, like, obviously, if you kept up to date with the Dragon Ball manga, or Super manga, you would know that obviously we've got Black Frieza, right? Now, Black Frieza arc can obviously, well, if that's the next case, could be a huge thing, right? It could be, like, a lot of people speculating, like, a war. So then, like, Black Frieza war. So I think there's heaps of speculation what it could be. Which, if it's the case, why isn't there any manga returning, right? Now, I'm going to fully explain everything that I currently know about this situation. And, sort of, I guess, leaks and stuff like that as well, we'll put in there, from what I've heard. And they are from trusted sources, so I do believe them. But we'll hop straight into it. So in the manga news straight away, as you can see, Toyotora here and also Torishima here are going to be part of this Japan Expo happening. I think it's in a few days now. July 6th, I think it is. I think that's what it translates to. It's all in French. I'm not, I can't translate French, but on the website it sort of explains a little bit about what it does in that as well. So as you can see here, like I said, they're both going to be attending. It does have manga original here, which a lot of people are like jumping on straight away going, oh my god, we're getting a new manga by Toyotora, which, to be honest, it could be the case, right? It very well could be the case with the current situation with Shueisha and also Capsule Corp, stuff like that as well, which we'll talk about later on. But in this part here, I do want to mention I don't expect anything new to come out of this. Now, as you can see, it does say new manga stuff, which could be the case, right? But I want to go into this expecting nothing at all, sort of thing. Because if we expect nothing and get nothing, well, there's no real harm in that, right? But if all of us expecting, Black Frieza arc's gonna come, stuff like this, and then all of a sudden Toyotora comes out and goes, yeah, I'm still working on it, at least, you're not gonna be as disappointed if you're really expecting nothing. But they do go on down here about what Torishima does here. So as you can see, Dragon Ball, Dr. Slump, stuff like that as well. I think he's just a publisher for the manga sort of thing. That's why this is such a big deal, which, like I said, it very well could mean something, but I don't want to get everyone's hopes up and we get nothing in return. And then also talks about Toyotora here, how he's basically now the... what would you call him? I guess he's not the owner of Dragon Ball Super manga now, but he's now like the head board of directions, like art and stuff like that, and where the story has to go. But now I guess we'll talk about the big issue about why we're not seeing anything manga related and stuff like that. So I couldn't find the original article in that did say all this stuff, but it does show little bits of clips here on this website here. So the big issue at the moment that, well, it could be solved by now. We haven't heard anything else, and this is the last that I know of info that we've got. So as you can see here, it seems that a handful of parties, including Shueisha, publisher of the manga, obviously, and then Capsule Corp Tokyo, which is current holder of the anime and game license. They're both having arguments, right? So basically, instead of reading this whole thing, I'll just quickly put it into my own words. Basically, they're both arguing. So Shueisha says, Capsule Corp at the moment is saying, for example, in the games, right? So let's say Dokkan, Legends, stuff like that, Sparking Zero. They're like, hey, we want Ultra Ego, right? We want him to come in the games. And Shueisha's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. This is manga exclusive. You have to sort of wait thing, right? Which obviously is a huge issue at the moment, right? For another reason as well, right? So not even just for the games now. If we look at this in terms of anime, this makes things even more difficult, right? So since Shueisha is basically saying no to that sort of thing, no to taking manga exclusive stuff like Ultra Ego, Moro, stuff like that. Obviously, it's hard for Capsule Corp to do the anime stuff, right? Because how are you going to get any anime stuff from the manga if the manga company doesn't let you have it, right? So currently, well, when I knew about it, there was like I don't know if it was lawsuits, but like court cases going about who should get the rights to this, stuff like that. Whether that's been solved or not, I'm not too sure. As you can see down here, is what they got here. I do hope all parties involved get everything settled, especially for Toriyama's family, right? Which is the big thing. Have they sorted out? Because that's going to put a lot of stress on the family, right? Because obviously they're going to get the main question, like Toriyama's son will probably get all the questions like, hey, where, are we allowed to have this? Can we have this? You know, it's sort of like, I guess, two kids arguing about who gets the rights to have shots in the game first, sort of thing, right? So, if we look at that, it is a bit childish, but at the same time, we all have to remember Dragon Ball obviously makes a lot of money. Like, I mean, it definitely shows. We've hit, yeah, I think it was this year's financial year, we hit actually more than One Piece, which was actually a first in a while, sort of thing. And considering we've had, I mean, we've had a Daima, so I guess it does help out a fair bit, but without Daima, we're still fairly high up there in terms of like sales and that. So that's why Shueisha and Capsule Corp currently fighting, right? Now, the reason why we're not getting any manga stuff as well is sort of the same thing. It's a little bit different. Well, I guess, actually, we'll finish to talk about the anime first as well. So, another thing with the anime is why they can't bring it back just yet. This is from what I've heard of before. This is about a few months ago. And basically that is the license company over there. I'm not sure what TV company it is. Like the big one in Japan sort of thing. I don't want to say the name just in case I get it wrong and I get in trouble sort of thing. But basically what I've heard of is for certain animes, for example, like you have to get certain licenses, right? So let's say for Daima, right? The reason why it's 20 episodes is because you get a license for 20 episodes, right? But then let's say if they bring the manga back, or the manga / anime back, and they do like anime adaptations of the manga, they might have like 25 episodes, right? But then if they do that, the TV company might go, no, you can only do either 20 or let's say 100 episodes, right? Just something like that. So if you don't require, or if you don't meet the requirements of that, you know, that certain license, they just won't give it to you no matter what. There's some instances where they will do it depending on how popular the anime is. But since they know obviously if Dragon Ball Super returns, it's going to be very popular, they have to get a good time slot, right? Getting a good time slot requires a different license, stuff like that, and it goes on and on and on. Now, that's sort of where, I guess, the web anime rumor came from, because web anime, they can sort of do their own sort of schedule on that, which does make sense. But then, obviously, one of these companies here, if it was Capsule Corp or Shueisha, were like, no, we want it like prime time Japan telly sort of thing, right? So for that to happen, it does obviously make things a little bit more difficult, yet again. So it's just, at the moment, at the current moment, I don't know the full details if this is still in effect. But if this is still going on, you know, I would not expect anything for quite a while until, you know, it all settles down, right? But the good thing I do want to mention about Capsule Corp, for example, is to do a Daima, right? So the good thing about Dragon Ball Daima is it does prove, well, it doesn't prove, but it does show one thing that Capsule Corp could do in this current situation, and that is basically make their own content, right? So what I mean by content is obviously make their own anime sort of thing, because obviously, you know, Daima is, it's on a different, well, unless it's all changed again, but it sounds like it's on a different storyline to Dragon Ball Super, so it may tie up eventually in the future if Toyotaro sort of makes a, you know, makes a storyline where it all mixes up, but at the moment it was like a different timeline sort of thing. So, knowing that they've done that, and obviously they had Toriyama's help, which I guess if they did it again this time and had like a movie, for example, or another anime coming out, they could probably get Toyotaro to sort of give in his advice. Like they'll probably, whoever did Daima, I have to try and look at who did it, but whoever did the storyline, they'll probably just get Toyotaro to have a look over it, go, hey, should we make any changes? Would Toriyama, for example, like this more than if we did that sort of thing? You know, that's why Super Saiyan 4 Goku's design here looks a lot different to what GT does, right? Because he got Toriyama's advice going, hey, what would you change about this? So, knowing that Daima was definitely that popular, or has been that popular and still is popular, and it's done so well in terms of money-wise, stuff like that, I can definitely see Capsule Corp doing another like a movie, Dragon Ball movie, or a new anime sort of thing. Now, if that's the case, when will it come out? I honestly have no clue. It's just, in my understanding, that's what they can do. They can legally do that if they want. Obviously, they'll probably still need to ask, like, Toriyama's family, for example, if, you know, 'cause I'm assuming someone there is in charge, probably his son, in terms of, like, final decisions, stuff like that. Or they might just like to ask him just because they know what his dad sort of prefers, right? So, knowing that, I think there's a possibility we could see another movie on the horizon. Now, there was a leak ages ago showing that Toei did have a design, well, not design, but did have a slot for a new movie. Now, it didn't say if it was Dragon Ball, for example, One Piece, whatever, you know, what other stuff Toei does. But it does show there was a movie slot there, so it could be Dragon Ball, or it could be One Piece, because it was, I think it was, in brackets, like a big name, a big anime name, I think it said something like that, in the league, or something like that, and it obviously means it's either one of the big popular ones. So, knowing that, like I said, it is very possible we could see that. Now, honestly, if I was to expect anything as a Dragon Ball fan right now, I would expect another anime or movie, not based off Super, but based off like a Daima, for example, because obviously at the end of Daima, they do sort of hint at something new's coming, you know, because obviously with the, I guess it's a spoiler here if you haven't watched it before, so I'll quickly say it now, there's a big spoiler warning. But obviously at the end you had the, what they call it, Oculus eyes, something like that, in the jar at the end there. So knowing that, it definitely does give, you know, it does give a hint that, hey, we could do a movie and someone might buy the eye, for example, and get all powerful and evil sort of thing. So, I mean, yet again, it could just be a thing just to throw up in the air to get the fans speculating, like, hey, what's this about, stuff like that. That's still very possible. But to me, it does indicate a movie, because also, was it Do, or, I think it was Do at the end, said something like, when he becomes a Demon King, he does say, you know, like, hey, you know, we're going to call you guys to sort of return here once, you know, if we're in trouble again, sort of thing. And obviously Goku, you know, Goku wants to fight, so obviously, yeah, we'll come back no matter what. So that could also be a hint as well for a movie or Daima Season 2. Now, yet again, if that is to happen, if we are getting an anime, stuff like that, from what I've heard of, Daima took roughly 4 to 5 years. Not to quite animate, but this is like storyboard, you know, designing, getting all the cast members, anime, like, you know, the animation stuff like that as well, getting the approvals, licenses, rah, rah, rah. So, if it happens again, and we do get, like I said, something anime or movie related, probably don't expect anything for, like, maybe 1 to 3 years, sort of thing. You know, it does suck, obviously, but I do expect the manga to return by then. But if it doesn't, I don't think it'll be the end of Dragon Ball, because I think Dragon Ball's always going to stay around. We're always going to get new content in terms of movies, or maybe, you know, a manga original, like it did hint at. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I do expect that to happen. I don't think Dragon Ball will ever die. It's one of them animes or series that it can continually evolve and get better and better, sort of thing. There's no, like, real end goal to it, sort of thing, from how I look at it. So I think there's a lot to expect in the future, but at the moment, I wouldn't expect anything just yet. But yeah, that's going to be today's video, guys. If you guys like these sort of videos and you want me to do more of these, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you as I win the next one.